You think a virus is an enemy, the thing that makes you sick, the thing your body has to hunt down and destroy. But there is one virus you would never want to kill, because without it, you would never have been born. And it isn't somewhere far away. It's inside you right now. In fact, if you unrolled your entire DNA and counted, you'd find something hard to believe. About 8% of it is not human. It's virus, not a metaphor. Not a figure of speech. In the code that makes you, roughly one letter in every 12 was written by viruses that invaded your ancestors tens of millions of years ago and then never left. You carry more viral DNA than you have genes for building the proteins that make your body. Let that sink in for a second. The part of you that is most human is smaller than the part that is virus. So how did they get there? There is a special kind of virus called a retrovirus. It does something most viruses can't. It writes its own code directly into the DNA of the host cell. HIV is a modern retrovirus. Normally, when a retrovirus invades a skin cell or a blood cell, it dies with you when you die. End of story. But sometimes, very rarely, the virus invades the wrong place. It slips into an egg cell or a sperm cell. And everything changes forever, because egg and sperm are what get passed to the next generation. Once a virus plants its code there, it is no longer an infection. It becomes an inheritance. It is passed to the child, then to the grandchild, then to every generation after that, forever, all the way down to you today. The virus stopped attacking your ancestors. It became your ancestors. And so, over millions of years, one plague after another, viral corpses piled up in the genome. Today, scientists count around 30 different lineages of virus, leaving more than 60,000 fragments scattered across human DNA. Most of them are stone dead, broken by mutation, locked down, silenced forever. People used to call the whole heap junk DNA. A vast viral graveyard that every human carries in every cell without ever knowing it. But here is where the story turns down a path that raises the hair on your neck. Not every virus is willing to stay quiet in its grave. A few of them woke up. And one, tens of millions of years ago, woke up with a job. The most important job in your entire body. There is a gene inside you called syncytin. It sounds like an ordinary human gene. It is not. It began as a piece of a virus. And to understand why it matters so much, you have to go back and see what that piece did when it was still a living virus. When a virus attacks one of your cells, it has to break through the outer membrane to get in. This gene was its break-in tool, the thing that let it melt the cell membrane and fuse itself into its prey. It was an instrument for invasion, for merging two things that were meant to be separate into one. Now think about how a child is made. To grow a fetus, a mother's body has to build something called the placenta, the border where the blood of mother and child trade life back and forth. And at that very border, something strange happens. Whole ranks of cells have to melt into each other, fusing into one giant shared layer of cell, so that nutrients and oxygen can pass through to feed the baby. What makes those cells fuse together? The virus gene. The very same tool the virus once used to break in and fuse with a host cell. Stop here for a second. The weapon that once let a virus force its way into your ancestors' bodies is now the thing that binds a mother to the child in her womb. The same instrument, once used for invasion, now used to create life. This is not some poetic coincidence. It is raw biology. Life stole the enemy's knife and turned it into an umbilical cord. And if you think this is just a pretty story someone dreamed up, here is the coldest proof of all. Researchers took a lab animal and deleted this one viral gene. Just the one. The result? Those embryos died inside the womb around day 12. The placenta could not form. Without the virus gene, there was no border joining mother to child. Without that border, there was no life. This is not a hypothesis. This is a switch that can be flipped off and life watched to a stop. But the most astonishing part hasn't arrived yet. This did not happen once, as a single miracle. It happened over and over. The mouse has its placenta gene, from a virus. The rabbit has its own, from a different virus. Dogs, cows, and humans each captured their own separate virus at different points in time, and each one independently turned its virus into a placenta gene. Evolution kept arriving at the same idea again and again out of different viruses, as if the placenta is something viruses keep accidentally inventing. That leads to a truth that makes you sit up straight. Mammals, the whole branch of life that carries and births, live young instead of laying eggs, might not exist without viruses. We did not invent live birth on our own. Viruses handed it to us. More than once, the virus solved a second problem for you too, one far more subtle. Your immune system is programmed to attack anything that is not you. But a fetus is half the father's, half foreign to the mother's body. By every rule, the mother's body should treat the child as an intruder and attack it. It doesn't. Why? In part because of that same viral machinery, which helps calm the immune response right at the border, hiding the baby from the mother's defenses. Think about it. A virus's single greatest survival skill has always been hiding from the immune system. And that very skill for hiding was repurposed, too, to protect you during the first 9 months of your life. But don't make the mistake of thinking these viruses are tame. They were never truly tamed. Most of them remain locked down, imprisoned in the dark of the genome, silent. But when a few wake up in the wrong place, at the wrong time, their fingerprints turn up in tumors, in certain diseases. The youngest of them went quiet less than 5 million years ago, a blink on the evolutionary clock. Some viral fragments lodged in the human genome as recently as a few 100,000 years ago, which means there may still be viruses inside you that never fully died, just fell asleep. You carry a graveyard, and not every grave in it stays quiet. So think again about what you were taught as a child. You were told a virus means the enemy, the thing that attacks life. But you are 8% virus. You were built, in part, out of the wreckage of ancient plagues that ravaged your ancestors and then never left. The line separating you from a virus is far thinner than you were ever told. They didn't just try to kill your bloodline. They stayed, they merged, and they became part of the recipe that made you. That virus died tens of millions of years ago, but it never truly vanished. Every time a child is born on this planet, at that fragile border where a mother holds the child she has not yet met, the virus wakes again, doing exactly what it always did, with only one thing changed. Once, it opened the way for death to slip in. Now it opens the way for life to step out.